Okay, so welcome to Inkscape Concepts Part 4. We're going to be talking about, this is going to be your introduction to blends, and blends are going to carry over through Blender, and well into Unity. So base knowledge starts now. What are blends? Okay, so blends are these special meshes. Okay, and remember that meshes are like a three-dimensional shape that the golf ball will sit on in the game. Okay, they're the terrain. Well, they're not the really terrain. It is a 3D flat object. That doesn't make sense either because it's 3D. It's not flat. It's a mesh. Okay, it's a mesh between two meshes that make the transition between the meshes appear softer. That should say softer, not software, and more natural. Okay. Let me just show you what that looks like. So here, this is without blends. Okay, so right here you see this line right here, and you see another line right here, and you see another line right here, and then you see a really hard line here and another hard line there. Okay, that's because there's no blends. There's no transition from this material to this material. It's just a straight line separating the two. Now you can see there are blends, and you can see it makes it softer. Here you can almost not even see the transition. And in here there's no hard line anymore. Out here there's no hard line. You can see that this, if I bounce back and forth, those hard lines are now softer. They look much more natural. Okay, and we do that by blends. So these are the blends. They are meshes. So if this was a fair or a green, this is a semi-rough, this is a rough, I'm sorry, this would be a green, this might be a fairway here, this might be semi, and this is a rough area. You can see that this blend right here doesn't transition from green to semi, and this one does a transition from semi to fairway, and this one does a transition from fairway to rough. And then over here we got sand to lip, and then we've got another transition from like the outside lip area to the rough. Okay, so that is what blends do for us. So how are they added? Well, blends are assigned via the Inkscape palette color. So remember I said earlier, well, some palettes have blends, some do not, but that's where they're assigned. You don't see them in Inkscape because they're actually created later on. They're created during the Blender process. You're going to take your Inkscape shapes, you're going to upload them to the Blender, and then it adds those blends during that process, and then you'll be able to actually see them in the Blender stage and subsequently inside of Unity. It's inside of Unity where the actual transition from the one color to the next is achieved on that blend. Okay, so why are they important? Well, they're important because it's very critical to understand, because the shapes and meshes that use blends are impacted in their creation and appearance based on how you set them in Inkscape. So you need to understand which shapes have blends, which shapes have blends and how they're used, and which shapes don't have blends, because in some cases you might not want to use blends. But for the most part, the major shapes like your fairways, your semis, your greens, your tee boxes, you want them to have blends because A, they're close to the golfer, you want them to look nice. And B, there's lots of those transitions. And if they have those hard edges, and it's just not that good looking. Okay. So inside, let me see here. Blend concepts. Here went through there to show you what those blends look like. What are the rules with blends? So Inkscape colors have different blend properties. Some Inkscape colors have no blends. Some have a certain blend width. Some have an inset. I'm going to just talk to those a little bit more here in a second. The outer perimeter, remember we talked about that earlier in another video, the Auto 99 has no blend no matter what material you choose. Doesn't matter because that is on the outside anyway. And remember what I said earlier, the ball really shouldn't be landing over there. So the golfer, unless one of us designers goes flying around to check out what you did, shouldn't really ever see that transition from whatever your last shape there is to your outer perimeter. So no biggie. Deep rough and rough have no blends. Like, well, why not? Well, think about it. Everything will blend into rough, like your fairway might blend into a rough if you have no semi. Your semi will blend into a rough. Your green will blend into a semi. Your green might blend to a fairway. And last thing things typically blend into is a rough or deep rough. So your semi would have a blend into the rough, but there's no reason that your rough, which is way outside somewhere where the ball may or may not land, has to blend into deep rough. Because most likely, if it's deep rough, you're gonna have lots of plants, weeds, and stuff out there anyway. You're not even gonna see that transition. So no big deal. Most shapes have a 12 centimeter outset blend. It's really important to understand that it's an outset. What it means is when you draw a shape, it's going to add an additional shape that is 12 centimeters that will create that blend on the outside of that shape. Okay, so most shapes do. I'll show you which shapes, I should say most colors have a 12 centimeter blend, right? Some shapes have an inset. Bunkers and lakes have an 18 centimeter inset. Well, why is that? Well, because if you go back here, and actually, is it here? Yes, it's there. This bunker, it has sand, and then it has this, like, if you want to call it the landscaping lip, where they kind of use like that spade to give it a nice clean line. So you want to blend from that to the lip, and then on the outside, you want to blend from the lip again, okay, out to wherever this material here is, the rough. And I didn't do a really good job of showing that in this particular instance, but so in other words, you want an inset, which is one blend from sand to the lip, and then you want an outset, which is a blend from the lip to your, like, whatever area this is out here, which is typically rough or fairway or something. Okay, so they have two blends. Same thing with water. On the water, which I don't have an image of, you're going to have like the inside, which is like the muddy base. It's going to transfer from like the shore to the muddy base of the water, and then you have the outside, which is going to be like more like the shore to the blend to like your deep rough or your rough. So there's an inset and then there's an outset. The inset is 18 centimeters. That's really important to understand that. It's bigger than your 12 centimeter blend, so it can cause some problems. Okay, big thing is that they are sensitive to sharp corners and Inkscape mishaps like double nodes. So think about it this way: if you take a garden hose and you start to bend it, at some point it kinks. Okay, thicker garden hoses tend to kink, with less of that diameter than skinny garden hoses. Well, when we create that additional inset blend of 18 centimeters, we're creating a perimeter, if you want to call it, on the outside of that shape that is a total of 30 centimeters wide. And if you start to bend it too much, it will kink and it will cause errors inside of Blender later on. So you really want to make sure that your bunkers and lakes have nice, smooth, round corners, okay? And don't want really, I would say, small radius turns in those, okay? So just be aware of that. They must be on top of all other shapes. You cannot cut through bunkers and lakes, because if you cut through, what does that inset and that outset blend go to? It just gets snapped off, okay? And there's really no reason you would cut through a bunker or a lake anyway, right? If you want to do like a bridge or something over a lake, you add the bridge later on. You don't do a cart path through the lake, okay? Same thing with bunkers. If everything needs to go over top of a bunker, I don't know, maybe a bridge over a bunker, or you want to draw like maybe you have a rough or deep rough island, you want to say, in the middle of the bunker, you can put that in the middle of the bunker, but just make sure it doesn't cut through the perimeter of the bunker. Same thing with the lakes. Do not cut through the perimeters of bunkers or lakes, okay? You can see which Inkscape color palettes have a blend by hovering over the color palette. So let's go into Inkscape and let me show you some of this stuff. All right, so here is my TPC Harding Park, and you can see when I zoom in, so here's some bunkers here. You can't see the inset, okay, or not, or in the case of a bunker, remember I said an inset and an outset, you can't see it. It's not there yet. It gets added later on. However, okay, and actually these aren't bunkers. This is a bunker, silly. You can see how smooth this bunker is. Now, if I come down here to the bottom and I start hovering over these, for example, this shape right here, and you can see it'll show up down here where my mouse is. You might have to, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it in YouTube. You can see it says, it's a T, which has 0.12 meter blend. So that's a 12 centimeter blend. And if I go across, I got my deep rough, which is no blend. Remember I said deep rough does not have a blend. There's rough, again, no blend. And then I've got semi-rough, blend of 12 centimeters. Fairway, blend of 12 centimeters. Green, blend of 12 centimeters. Now I get to bunker. 12 centimeter blend, 18 centimeter inset. It says right there in the bottom. So if you're not sure about any of these, you can just hover top of it and it'll tell you. So there's pine straw, 12 centimeter blend, concrete, 12 centimeter blend. You say, oh, I don't want blend on my cart path. You don't have to, actually, the blend will be there, but you don't have to make it a blend. You could just make it all the concrete material from in to out, and then it doesn't blend to what's around it. But there are some tricks to actually make concrete blends look really good. But that's a little advanced topic. So here's our water. You can see blend of 12 centimeters on the outside and 18 centimeter inset. So then we have this other thing called a creek. A creek is basically just water without an inset. So in my case, when I showed you this here, this big water area, I could have, okay, done like this creek blend, and maybe it wouldn't have cut with an air because it didn't have an inset. But I decided to go with one of these shapes that has no blend whatsoever, because the golfer really isn't going to see this edge right here. They're going to be far away from it. There's going to be all kinds of trees in here between them. So let's keep on going through this, and I'll explain that in a second. So here's this orange one right here. Oops, I just changed that to orange. I don't want to do that. This orange one. So this is a custom one, so I could use this orange color in an area like a wood area, but it has a 12 centimeter blend. This purple one here, if you want to call it purple, magenta maybe, 12 centimeter blend. This yellow, 12 centimeter blend. And then these two are areas that have no blend. So this is custom 4. And this one says hole 99. Remember I explained hole 99 earlier? We don't use it anymore. Let me go into that a little bit deeper on what it used to be so you at least understand the background behind it. It used to be that you would have to use this color and encompass all your shapes in a thing called hole 99. So if you go around my perimeter here, and you can see that I've got this deep rough area going all the way around. It used to be that that would just be called hole 99, and it would be one giant shape encompassing all my other shapes. We don't do that anymore. Everything you see in the middle here now are individual shapes, and you can see they're no longer called hole 99. So hole 99 is no longer used. You'll see some references to it in some forums in Klender later on. So here's another one over here. This is another piece. These all now individual make up the same functionality as a hole 99, but it's much easier in the Klender process if you have smaller shapes that are being cut through rather than one larger hole 99 the way it should be. However, you can still use this hole 99, okay, as like an extra custom color with no blend if you want, okay? That's not a problem. You can still use it. Consider it just kind of like a bonus thing now. Or you can just avoid it altogether if it worries you. No problem, okay? Let's see, let's go back. Is there anything else that I really need to show you that was on here? We talked about the auto outer, deep rough have no blends. I showed you the blends inside of Inkscape. I think we're good. I think we're gonna close out this part, and I think we can get this video series done in one more part. Oh God, this one was too long anyway. Blends take a long time, 13 minutes. I don't like that, too long. Oh well.